Hey guys, it's Natalia and welcome back to another episode of Fashion Design 101. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to gather fabric in two different ways, one of them being with a gathering foot, which I'm going to be so honest is game changing. I didn't start using one till earlier this year and I've been sewing for like 10 plus years and I don't know why I never used it. I thought it wouldn't be useful, but now that I've put it to use, it's actually really great. So if you have one of those, I'll show you how to use it, and if not, I'll show you the way that I've been doing it my entire life prior to knowing that a gathering foot existed, which is just the manual way, which works equally well, and I'll show you guys how it looks and I'll show you guys both in comparison. They look the exact same. It's just that a gathering foot will make it a lot faster for you, which is nice if you're doing it a lot. But yeah, that being said, let's just get straight into it. So this is what a gathering foot looks like. It basically allows the fabric to like bunch up back here and helps it slide really easily so that it gathers. It's pretty straightforward, but it does have a little bit of a trick to getting your fabric to gather properly. And you want to make sure you pull out your thread quite a bit so that it's nice and long. That's going to be important to both types of gathering. Make sure you switch your machine to the longest possible stitch length for this. I'm going to place my fabric on the 1/2 inch seam allowance mark. The most important thing about using a gathering foot is, one, we don't backstitch, and two, you basically have to hold your hand back here the whole time so that the fabric starts to bunch up. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So keep your hand back there. If you need to move a bit, you can, but you can start to see it bunch up. And at the end, again, you do not backstitch, but you just want to pull it out and leave a decent amount of thread. And this is what your gathers should look like. Now we're gonna do it the normal way with the regular sewing foot. Again, you wanna make sure you have a good tail of thread behind it and you're on the longest stitch setting. And again, we're just gonna place this at the 1/2 inch seam allowance mark. No back stitching, longest stitch length, and just stitch straight. And then you're gonna want to leave a nice long tail of thread. For extra measure, it's always good to do 2 rows of this. So I'm gonna do the second row at the 1/4 inch seam allowance and do the same thing. No back stitch, have a little bit of thread behind it, and just stitch straight. Leave some thread, and then cut. Your piece might slightly be gathered, but for the most part, it's still pretty straight. So what you're gonna do is take the top thread from one end and the top thread from the second line of stitching. You're gonna hold those, and you're gonna start to pull gently and then kind of move your fabric. So you'll start to see the gathers kind of move with it. And then all you need to do here is just space them out as evenly as possible and as gathered or non-gathered as you want them to be. You can also pull from the other side, but if you do so, again, do it with the top thread. So you can pull here and gather that way. So now I'm gonna attach each of the gathers to a straight piece so you can see what it looks like when they're fully sewn down, as if this were like a skirt on a torso or something like that. So we're just gonna pin it down. So I'm gonna start by lining this up to this edge, and then I'm gonna line up the other side to the edge. And that way I can kind of move my gathers to make them as even as possible onto this piece. So I like to start by pinning kind of like the middle and then around. I'm gonna pin this. With gathers, honestly, the more pins the better because your gathers will stay in place a lot easier. So there's that piece. Now we're gonna do the same to this. I'm gonna pin one side. And if you find that you need a little bit more gathers or less, you can continue to pull on the threads or loosen them if need be. And now we're ready to stitch the seam on both of these. Make sure to switch your stitch length back to a normal stitch for this. You're gonna have your regular presser foot on this and you're just gonna sew a seam as normal. Make sure all your threads are kind of out of the way. This you are gonna want to back stitch. Now we're gonna do the other one really quick. Same thing. So now this is what your two gathered pieces look like. As you can see, they're pretty much the same. This one, which was the gathering foot, is a little bit more evenly spaced because the sewing foot just kind of does it for you versus like when it's manual, it's not as spread out evenly, but if you take your time with it, it can basically look the exact same. The last step is that you're gonna see your gathering thread under this. So all you need to do is just seam rip it. And it should honestly come out pretty easily unless it got stuck in your seam. And of course, once you iron it all down, they basically end up being completely identical and really, really clean. The gathering foot one is just a lot faster than the manual, but again, both work really, really well. That is it for today's tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're new here, I have an entire series called Fashion Design 101 where I teach you everything you need to know about being a fashion designer / sewing. So if you're interested in sewing, pattern making, all the things, I'll link the entire playlist down below so you can check it out. Everything from how to thread your sewing machine to different types of fabric, patterning your own clothes, and a bunch of different little techniques and whatnot. And as always, I do take requests, so if you have anything specific that you would want me to make a tutorial about, let me know down below in the comments and I will hopefully get to it. That being said, subscribe for more if you're not already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!